Now continuing our look ahead to the World Championships, and in case you missed it, the title sponsor Paddy Power revealing this week the Ballon D'Art is going to be the prize for the player who hits the most 180s at Ali Pali. So who do you fancy to lift the trophy?
Well, I feel a little trepidation making this selection, not because I don't think I'm going to be right, but because it might just spoil our next episode and mean that we don't need to have it. Because one thing that is not guaranteed that the person with the most 180s is going to make the final, but it's a pretty good bet. At the very least, whoever finishes with the most 180s is going to make the semifinals. It would be almost impossible for that not to be the case. And probably is also going to make the final. So in a way, you're getting a sneak peek, not about who I'm necessarily going to think is going to win, but at least who I think is going very, very, very far into this tournament. And maybe it would be more interesting if the award was for the most 180s per leg, because then it could go to pretty much anyone if they just had a good run at some point, a good match, or not a good match, but a match where they scored a lot. They could have gone out 3-1, but in 14 legs ended up with 16 180s or something and win this award. But it goes for whoever has the most. I think the safest bet is Luke Humphries. One, he's almost as good at scoring as pretty much anyone. Yeah, okay, Ross Smith, Dave Chisnell probably score a little bit better than him. I mean, there's a couple others as well. But two, it's going to take some beating to keep him from making the semifinals again. And yes, he might end up going against MVG. And yes, MVG is going to be hungry to get revenge after the Players' Championship final. But Luke Humphries is the best player in the world. And he hits 180s. He could hit 180s with his eyes closed if he wanted to. I can't not pick Luke Humphries here because it just, well, I think it's going to happen. And also, it's the safest bet.
Yeah, it is a great shout, isn't it? And not just the new trophy that Paddy Power have introduced as well, but in terms of the 180s, they are going to donate £1,000 for everyone that's hit to Prostate Cancer UK. There was 901 in last year's event, so it will be interesting to see if a player's got 182 left and decides to go for the 180 this year to bump that prize fund up a little bit more. But looking at how this competition, if it is a competition now, has gone the last few years, as you quite rightly pointed out there, if you get to a world final, you've got a very good chance of being the player that hits the most 180s in the tournament. Michael Smith made the final the last 2 years. He's the player that's hit the most as well, 66 last year on the way to the title, and the year before that a record 83 in losing that final to Peter Wright in the end. And we've seen other players that have got to the final: Gerwyn Price, Peter Wright, Rob Cross, Gary Anderson, Adrian Lewis. They're the ones that have hit the most 180s in the tournament. Luke Humphries, yeah, he's the favourite with the title sponsors 3-1. There's no surprise really in that. Then you've got Michael van Gerwen, Gerwyn Price, Michael Smith to do the hat-trick 6-1. And I was just having a look at some of the 180 stats. Our friends at Darts Oracle looking at the season. Gian Van Veen, top of that list. Okay, he's played the development tour as well, so this data is slightly skewed, but 647 180s that he scored this season. Then you've got Luke Humphries, 610, Luke Littler, 598, Gerwyn Price, 556, Owen Bates, 552. And as I said, that data is a little bit skewed, isn't it? Because some of those players have played the development tour, some the challenge tour, some the Premier League and the World Series. But I was having a look more at recent form and going from October onwards, so only looking at the last couple of months. Luke Humphries again is he's high up on that list. He's got 147. Then you've got Stephen Bunting, 135. Then Ross Smith, 125. And I think Ross Smith is a great shout for this, isn't he? Because you look at last year, 19 180s he got in that game with Dirk van Dijvenbode, which is an individual record for a best of 7 set match. I think it was 31 between them in the end. But to win this 180 competition, he's going to have to go deep into the tournament, deeper than he's ever gone before. And if he can do that, then I think his odds, I think he's 28-1 at the moment. Then they're going to drop very, very quickly because he is one of the most prolific maximum hitters in the game. So if he can make it through that top quarter, maybe even a semi-final, maybe he could be the one to buck that trend of you have to get to the final to hit the most 180s. Because I think even a semi-final, the way he hits 180s, that could be enough for him to finish top of the pile. And then you've got someone like Dave Chisnell as well. He hits a bucket load of 180s. Dirk van Dijvenbode, probably before his injury problems that he's had recently. If you go back 6 months, he would be a strong contender for this. We're not quite sure what the injury is going to be like going into the World Championship, but he would have been a strong favourite as well. But for me, I'm looking between a Gary Anderson or a Going Price. They could meet as early as the last 16, so I think the winner of that is going to be the one I'm going to go for, and I'm going to go with Going Price, the third favourite at 11-2. But if I did have 50p, I would be looking at Ross Smith, 28-1, like I said, and I think a semi-final, potentially in that top quarter of the draw, is possible. The way he hits 180s, he could be the one. So I think if he can break that new ground, Ross Smith, he's a huge shout for the Ballon D'Art. Not a sentence I thought I'd ever be saying, I have to admit.